Ladies and gentlemen, EU5 version 1.2 and the accompanying Fate of the Phoenix immersion pack are finally here. And I know what you're all thinking. Hawk, we need you to tell us if they're any good. Is this update worth updating to? Is this DLC worth buying? And don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what I'm here for today, because for the past couple of days, I've been playing and testing Europa Universalis 5 on the latest 1.2 update and along with the Fate of the Phoenix immersion pack. I'm gonna tell you what's changed. Has anything changed for the better? Has anything changed for the worse? And overall, the entire feel of the game, so you can have a better understanding of it whenever you do update and whenever you do get the DLC. But spoiler alert, I think it's really, really good. So without further ado, let's jump in and see what EU5 1.2 and Fate of the Phoenix are all about. Alright, here we are in EU5, and before we move on with the video, let me just tell you guys that if you want to get a Fate of the Phoenix for yourselves, or even upgrade to the premium edition of EU5, which not only gets you Fate of the Phoenix, but the next two DLCs as well, you can do that by checking out the link in the description and in the pinned comment. It takes you to Paradox's website, you buy the game there, you get a Steam key, it's all super simple, and I get a little bit of a cut of that, which really helps support the channel, because this is my full-time job. So if you want to support your boy and get all of these things, check out the links below. But yeah, let's get right into it, man. And the first thing I actually want to talk about for this video is something that you're gonna notice before you even jump into a full campaign and before you even play the game at all. And it's also the first thing I noticed, and you know, it's really just nice to have all of these things right here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is stuff that we can see. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the map, at least the one that I'm using, you know, the flat map always on, is looking a little bit crisper. You know, the country borders are looking a little bit more defined, and if you zoom out a little bit over here, they're even more defined, and they got this little inner shadow which makes the countries pop a little bit. Obviously, you know, it's not visible when you zoom out this much, but I do gotta say, I am a fan of that, even though it's only noticeable in certain levels of zoom. Okay, that quick thing out of the way, the next thing you're immediately going to notice is the map modes right here, and all of this is looking different. Finally, after 6 or 7 months of the game, map modes are no longer stacked like this. When you select one, it no longer does this and block out 8 different ones. They're finally all separated, just like I had them in my nice wide map mode UI mod, which I no longer have to use. But aside from map modes no longer overlapping, when you hover over them, something else you'll notice is, oh, what's this? Cycle map mode slot? Edit map mode slot? 7? 14? What do these things mean? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, we can finally add multiple map modes to a single hotkey. Now, I've not edited any of that for this video specifically, just so I can show you guys how it looks when you guys will launch it as well. But for example, as you can see right now, on the 7th slot, which should be Control U for me right here, there's no map right there. But it's so simple to add it. For example, let's see, what do we don't have? We don't have, I don't know, areas, for example, right? It's simple. Right click, add to slot 7, and it's right there. Oh, but what's that? You don't want it just this one? Well, it's good because you can right click on locations, add it to 7. Right click on provinces, add it to 7. Add regions, you know, add subcontinents, add continents, all of these, you know, sort of, you know, area defining map modes right here. They're all right here. And get this, you can even, you know, cycle them up and down. How did you do that? I forgot. Yeah, you just right click right here and you can see all of them. Oh wait, we want the smallest one to be first? Sure, we can move up locations too, and it's so nice, dude. You can reorder it in any way you want. In fact, it's even better and easier to do than it was in, you know, EU4. So, you know, you just click on these and it cycles through. It's as simple as that, you know? You don't gotta pin 90 different things. You can stack them on base to what you want to do, and I've been waiting on this for so long, and I'm so glad that it's in the game. A little too much yapping about this, I know, but it just makes so much of a difference for me. Sorry, this was A. It's Control A for me, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm Control A-ing, and there we go. You know, you swap through all of this. It's wonderful. Now, the next thing you're gonna notice right here, still even before you've selected a country, and by the way, this is, I guess, where DLCs are gonna be ordered up here. That's Fate of the Phoenix. You know, it highlights Byzantium, which it is for. More on that later. But whenever you do select a country, look at this. The country selection screen is brand new, and it's already so much better than what we had, man. It literally tells me everything I wanted to know without clicking around and going everywhere. You know, I was talking about this a couple of times, man, but whenever you selected a country, you know, in EU4, it was so simple. Oh, I want to play Hungary, and boom, right here, you had all of their national ideas, starting rural, blah, blah, blah. But this is even better because look at this, man. So, you know, a breakdown of the estate power, a breakdown of the culture, breakdown of the religion, 61 country bonuses. So even with just one click, you can see how many unique things certain nations have. 42 country bonuses, what are they? Well, you're gonna see if you go down here. And obviously for Byzantium, you got this right here because, you know, stuff specifically for them is included in the DLC. But look at this. We got a unique societal value, the Latinas versus Romanismos. We got a unique disaster, another unique disaster, Byzantine bureaucracy, which is an advance. And, you know, just some highlighted things over here, you know, the Varangians, the Byzantine cataphracts, and, you know, the Pronoyar subject type. But over here, it lets us know, oh wait, 67 unique events for Byzantium? The best part, we don't just read that there are 67 events anymore. No, we get to see all of them. You can scroll right through them, each separated by age, which is, oh, I love it. And the best part, you hover over them, it tells you the exact requirements to do it. Oh wait, you log this in, you hover over the options, you see what you'll actually get. It's perfect, dude. Let's scroll all the way down to the Age of Absolutism. What is Monaria Greca right here? Oh, we need to own all of the Ionian Islands? Okay, well, this is just for an event or an artist or whatever, but, you know, a Roman Empire question mark? You know, cultural influence. You see everything right here, and it's super simple. Obviously not just for Biz. I mean, we can select Bohemia. These are their events as well. First Congress of Visegrad right here, you know, requirements already fulfilled. These are our options. It's just amazing, man. And, you know, aside from all of these things that are, you know, highlighted for the country right here, you just go right into the events. You can examine them, you can learn them or whatever, and it's just so much nicer to see. But aside from that, man, which I think, you know, along with the overhaul, this and this and this is the biggest change. We also have, oh wait, unique cabinet, unique actions right here. Oh, that's awesome. Do any other guys have them? Of course, everyone has unique actions. Then a formable country too, dude. We can see every formable country that a certain country can form if you just click on them right here. Hungary, it can form Africa and Transylvania. That's because I got ahistorical countries on or whatever, but, you know, you get the point. Naples can form 5 different countries. You know, through Heydingen, whoever this is, 4 countries: Franconia, Germany, Africa, Prussia. I don't know why everyone can form Africa. These guys, they can form Sokoto. Yeah, maybe I need to turn off ahistorical countries, huh? Maybe I need to turn off ahistorical countries, but you get the point, man. We got that right there. Unique army types right here, which is obviously now they've also been separated into heavies and lights. Unique, you know, bureaucracy content right here, but of course for now that is literally only Byzantium. They're the only ones that have it, so we won't touch on that too much here. You know, for the generic stuff, we can even, you know, go through that. Unique succession law, unique buildings, all the advances right here, what age they are, what they give you, you know, not just unique ones, but semi-unique ones as well. You know, unique character interactions right here, government reforms. It's perfect, man. You literally see every single unique thing a country has right from this screen, and it just helps, you know, pick out countries so much better than whatever, you know, this was, you know, they got some unique content or whatever, right? So unique cabinet actions, laws, you know, policies, what you call it, more country interactions, disasters, the subject types that they can have. For example, you know, Ottomans should have that as well, or I guess not. You know, societal values and unique urban rights as well, which is another unique thing. So, yeah, and if you want to check out even more specific stuff, you can still go back into, you know, stuff right here, take a look at the advances through that or whatever, take a look at, you know, based on what they are unique. Still, you can take a look at the diplomacy, starting off out like the Trebizond, Epirus as a vassal in the Ecumenical Patriarchate of Constantinople, and you got the nice description right here. So, a lot of stuff even before you start playing, man, and there's actually another thing once you've selected your country that I think we should take a look at. Now, the next thing and the final thing I'm going to touch on in this screen right here is actually in the game rules. Now, I have my own preset right here. Everything is pretty standard right here. You guys know all of this, and I'll actually remove my cam for this so you guys can see it better. But something that I think you guys should examine upon playing the game when you go into flavor is this right here at the bottom, AI personalities. Now, for now, I have it set random per ruler, and I'll explain all of them, but this is the default starting one. So, this is what it's like before you even select anything, before you even do a preset. This is the default mode, and you may notice that when you hover on certain countries right here, there's a new addition for them, and that's right here, the country personality. Now, for example, I'm hovering on Byzantium right now, and Byzantium, sorry, that was Serbia, but Serbia is cautious. And you can read all of the modifiers that they get or would get based on the fact that they're cautious. And, you know, a little description of that. Naples, for example, is opportunistic, right? Byzantium, defensive. Castile, expansionist. Ottomans, you know, aggressive. There are certain countries that are also, you know, friendly and stuff like that. There's a couple of these, there's 5 or 6 of them, and, you know, they're all pretty cool. But here's the thing. If you read this right here, it says AI nations are assigned historically appropriate personalities reflecting their documented ambitions and political character. And that's all cool, right? And you know, in the grand scheme of things, countries should be like what they are right now. You know, Castile is expansionist, Portugal is opportunistic, Aragon cautious. You know, you would think that that is how these countries are. However, because the game still doesn't evolve like we expect it to evolve, right? Castile eats up Aragon, forms Spain every time. England forms Britain every time. Ottomans blob out every time. Poland, Lithuania forms. Some of these countries, if you do end up staying on historical, and I'll remove my cam once again, you'll basically get stuck, for example, with a cautious Bulgaria the entire game. And I'm not sure if you want that. Or, you know, a mega aggro expansionist Hungary. Right, or what you call it, an opportunistic Portugal, or a cautious Morocco, right, or a defensive Mamluks, and you know there's even isolationists too. I wonder if I can find anyone that's isolationist, right? Sometimes you don't want these things to happen, and that's why aside from historical, you got random, which all countries are assigned a random personality at the start of the game, which obviously isn't these. These are, you know, the historical ones. But then you got random per age, which, you know, there's only 5 ages. I don't think this is needed. And then what I think is the best option, folks, random per ruler. Now, you guys will know that, you know, as it says right here, AI nations will receive a randomly assigned personality whenever a new ruler takes the throne. Now, you guys will know from EU4 that rulers also had these types of, you know, personality, well, it really was personality traits. And this is kind of that, but not that in EU5 since it applies to the whole country. And I think random per ruler is the best, man, because countries do continue to evolve like they're supposed to evolve, but you do get way more interesting scenarios happening from time to time. And I'll touch on this. I noticed this in my observer run. So I did 4 observer runs of 100 to 200 years with historical AI personalities and 4 of them with random per ruler. And there was definitely interesting things happening because I really do think it should be per ruler, right? Let's say, you know, you get a Naples guy who's a mega expansionist and mega aggro, and he goes into all of northern Italy, or the first guy dies, and then the next guy is isolationist, which could lead to a cool campaign, which means Naples sticks to what it has and doesn't mega blob out into northern Italy every time. But in the meantime, in northern Italy, you could have someone like Milan and Bologna be mega expansionist, and you end up with a big Milan and Bologna. So I do think random per ruler creates a lot more interesting scenarios. You know, you could have France at the start who's mega aggro, and then the next guy, he doesn't want to expand that much, right? So if you stay on historical, you know, you are going to get that expansionist France, and you are going to get that expansionist Castile, and that, you know, aggressive Ottomans and stuff like that. But with random per ruler, you can get any of those. So, you know, you could realistically see it as, okay, previous guy was a warmonger. You can role play it even to now his kid, you know, he's seen the perils of war and stuff like that. He's like, let's consolidate, let's not be that aggro and stuff like that. So, you know, you can do this whatever way you want. Obviously, like I said, historical locks them in. That country is For example, Hungary will be expansionist the entire game, but I think, man, I think I'm going to be playing my videos with random per ruler, just because it leads to much more interesting scenarios, and still you don't get anything crazy, like for example, I don't know, you know, one of these guys becoming this big just because they're expansionists or stuff like that. So the stuff that's supposed to happen still happens, but it's just that countries have various periods of doing various things, which I do like quite a lot. So yeah, make sure to check this out, man. You can, you know, you can do your own tests with AI personalities as well, but that's it for that, I think. And yeah, I think it's time to jump into the game. We've been yapping long enough about stuff before we even jumped in. But yeah, these are honestly the two things that I just mentioned. Sorry, yeah, the map modes thing and the AI personalities, and this right here, the three are like massive changes to me. And maybe even, you know, just me yapping on about this will be half the video as opposed to vibes being the rest. But yeah, let's jump into actually in-game and I'll tell you how everything feels. All right, next moving on to, you know, important things once you jump into a country, and we're randomly here as Naples. It doesn't matter which country, but obviously, you know, one of the biggest changes that have come to this update, man, and something that's, you know, mega awesome, and, you know, I touched on this in the previous clips as well, is this tab right here. Once you go into your country, boom, there's the event list, man. There it is right there, and, you know, as always, it's sorted by, you know, by ages, first, second, third, fourth, fifth age, and you can see also the, you know, the years that it can happen in. For example, for this one specifically, it's May 1340 to whatever, and you know, you can see if this event has happened by these things right here. They'll be highlighted or not, and you know, if it's ticked right here, that means the requirements are met. So for example, all of these events in age 1 right here that we can see that are green, they can happen. But obviously, they're not going to happen instantly as soon as you unpause. You can also take a look at the monthly chance. And for example, you know, the destruction of Amalfi, the volcano blows up or whatever, or the Fraticelli, you know, sympathizers right here, 5% monthly chance on all of these, as long as everything here is valid. And then if you hover on these things right here, you know, you can see the stuff that you get based on the options, and it doesn't always tell you for everything. For example, if I go into a certain event right here, let's see, yeah, so for this event, the events can only be determined when the event is actually happening. So for example, you know, it's usually going to be something money related or stuff like that, and you know, I understand why it's not there. I wish it was there, but it's not there because, you know, for example, you'll need to spend or get a certain amount, and the game can't tell you what you're going to spend on or what you're going to get, because it determines it in the moment, right? You know, for example, if, let's say, if this event could happen in, I don't know, 1700, maybe you'll get or spend 5,000 ducats. Obviously, it's not going to give you 5,000 ducats now, so it calculates those things. So once again, man, the event view right here is awesome. You know, you can just sit through these, browse them. You know, what is heavy taxation? Oh, tax the commoners, heavy taxation on the peasants for 25 years. That's an awesome event. Yeah, would love to get it, but it's, you know, later. So that's an awesome thing right here that every country has, literally every country has, and something that I think we're definitely going to be utilizing quite a lot from now on. A couple of more things I want to get into before we get into like country and region specific things. For example, you guys know that the economy and the trade and stuff like that was tweaked quite a lot, and you know, the logistics and stuff like that, and you know, those things we already yapped on about them for, you know, long enough. We read through the dev diaries. If you guys want to see me, you know, actually go through and discuss those things, you can check out the EU5 news playlist that I got on my channel to go through all of those things. But you may notice, man, that a lot of countries, once you jump into them, you know, they still are losing money, like, you know, they were, you know, in previous patches, and you might think that's not fixed and stuff like that. Obviously, Bohemia always makes money, but you know, with the changes, for example, the trade expenses right here and stuff like that, don't think it's, you know, it's still basically impossible to make money. You know, these are the stuff that I automate, for example, right here. This is how I do it. You know, just generally, and as long as, you know, you tick all of these things off, drop this, drop this, drop this, drop this, drop this, and we're going to touch on this more further, you know, especially on the diplomatic spending. Let a month take over so everything, you know, balances itself out. There we go. We're all good. And there we go. Once you do that, obviously with more privileges and stuff like that, you make or lose more money. But, you know, navies, you know, forts and stuff like that, you know, cost of court, you're going to bring it up a little bit. Stability, you're going to bring it up a little bit. So the game does need a month tick to refresh itself. And obviously with the addition of already existing buildings and stuff like that in certain locations, and RGOs being more expanded, the economy definitely does, you know, get going a lot quicker, at least in my experience. You don't really gotta wait that long for, you know, the estates to build up stuff for you. Obviously, you know, if you're playing a super poor country like someone, I don't know, that doesn't have anything at the start, man, maybe some of these guys right here, yes, you only own 2 locations, yes, you're gonna be waiting on the estates to build stuff for you just because you don't have anything. But if you're playing a normal sized country, man, this is pretty easy to handle. Aside from that, the diplomatic spending has also been changed quite a bit. If we max it out, for example, and we hover over this, we can see all of this right here. So at max diplo spending, and you know, normally you're not gonna be max diplo spending. The only time I diplo max is to annex subjects quicker. Obviously now it impacts other things as well. You know, you drop complacency, you annex stuff quicker, subjects are way more loyal, and we can check that out as France, for example, right here. Right now, you know, France has 1 million different subjects. You get +9 loyalty of subjects with this spending. Max it out, +30. So it does impact it quite a lot, man. Diplo rep is now even more valuable as well. You know, max diplomats, monthly diplomats counter espionage. So diplomatic spending is something that's quite relevant that you're gonna want to keep an eye out on for this update right here. But aside from that, the economy definitely gets going a lot quicker. No need to wait, you know, that long. As we can see, you know, we click around on countries, the big guys are making money as expected and as it should be. So don't be scared if you jump into even a big country and you're losing 30 ducats a month. You just, you know, drop all of those things, automate what you want to automate, a month takes over, and everything is good. And then you can start raising and putting stuff down. But yeah, you know, building maintenance, you know, trade maintenance and stuff like that. Now we got trade income because we're actually trading. You know, it's, once again, don't be scared. Definitely, though, it is better, at least, you know, in the initial feel of things. Now, something else I want to talk about, man, is obviously talking about feel a lot this campaign is just the general vibe of the game, and you know what things happen and don't happen, like I've been talking about, you know, every time we've had an update, or at least we did for 1.1. You know, AI aggressiveness wasn't that much of an issue this one. Countries, once again, do what you would expect them to do in 1.1, although there are certain changes I want to note, and I'll be talking about both historical AI, what you call it, personality and per ruler basis. One thing I can say that I've noticed in my 10 or so campaigns that I've done for 1.2, both observer and non-observer, is England is a lot more aggro towards the Scottish guys, and what I think happens over there is England basically does the same thing that a player England would do, which is basically, you know, take advantage of the fact that you got truces or already are at war with France to eat up these guys right here. So I've seen, you know, Scotland fall a lot quicker and a lot more this campaign. Ottomans, I would say 7 out of the 10 games, they were more aggro than normally. So they expanded quite a bit in Anatolia in just about 100-ish years or so, and they pushed pretty far into the Balkans. But one thing I do gotta say, Bulgaria is still stronger than it needs to be for the AI. We still don't have that Bulgaria blowing up event chain or whatever. And you guys might have also noticed this. I literally forgot to touch about it, but there are actually map changes in the Balkans. This location, as far as I can tell, has gone over to Byzantium. Albania owns this now as well, and these guys start off as a vassal of Serbia. You know, nothing too significant right here, but slight map changes. And yeah, going back to how countries behave, man. Yeah, the England thing is very obvious. Ottomans, I do gotta say, are a little bit more aggressive, which I do like quite a lot. You would think that with the new disasters Byzantium has and stuff like that, that they would be more likely to blow up, but the AI actually can get a pretty good handle on them, and Byzantium blows up or disappears about as often and about as quick as they did in 1.1. Obviously, in the hands of the player, it's different, but in the hands of the AI, it's not like they're weaker or stronger. Another thing I want to say is Golden Horde, dude, and I'm actually going to unpause the game right here as someone far off. There we go. Let's just click on someone, I don't know, someone unimportant. Yeah, let's get these guys. They're a vassal. They don't do anything. If I unpause, maybe we'll get to notice this right here. There are, like, always, as far as I can tell, man, wars that the Golden Horde gets involved in right at the start versus a bunch of different guys. And I'm hoping we'll actually get to see that here. I don't know how soon it happens. And they've also blown up in every single one of the campaigns that I've done for 1.2. which I like quite a lot, man. I like that quite a lot. Obviously, they're supposed to blow up. Some historical countries do pop up over here as well. I've seen Nogai a couple of times, Crimea and stuff like that, so that's cool over there in that department. Elsewhere, what should I say? Golden Horde, Byzantium, Ottomans is what I wanted to touch on. England. And yeah, you know, those are just some of the things I've noticed countries doing. Aside from that, Hungary doesn't blow up as often, so they don't push into the HRE that hard and then get annihilated by by coalitions. Additionally, France isn't aggro that much into the HRE. I feel like even a little less than 1.1. They just wrap up their vassals right here. These guys sometimes and a little bit over here, but I've really never seen them push, super hard into the Low Countries or super hard in Southwest Germany right here like they did before, which obviously they stopped doing it even in 1.1, but now even less. And let's see if I'm getting this Golden Horde thing or if I'm just gonna pause. Yeah, these guys aren't at war, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But yeah, those are just some of the things I've noticed countries doing. This is a weird one that I've never seen. Morocco actually lost to Tlemcen, which is interesting to say the least. And yeah, it seems that Castile might even eat up Granada relatively quickly here. Obviously not all of it. And I have actually also seen, for the first time ever, Castile lose to Granada and Granada taking stuff over here. So those are just, some things I've observed, vibes in certain games. I'm not saying you can expect those stuff in every single campaign, but I do like it quite a lot. And once again, going back to the historical country personality versus per ruler, for me, the games that I've noticed have been much more interesting per ruler, man. Like I said, going back once again to that Naples example, you guys know that they do this all the time, man. They're super aggro on the Pope. They eat up the Pope super quick. These guys super quick. And they never really even push that hard into northern Italy. Once again, because the Italian guys almost always stay in the HRE, but they stop right here. But what I was saying earlier, man, you end up with a Naples that's opportunistic at the start. But then, this guy, whoever, dies. In fact, their starting guy has died. It's her. And then you end up with an isolationist Naples. So that, in turn, leads to a little bit of a stronger Pope. And that, in turn, leads to a little bit of a stronger Northern Italy guys, right? So that's why I think per, ruler is also pretty interesting. But then again, you might end up with, 2 or 3 non-expansionist Ottoman rulers in a row. So you might end up with a boring game here. It's interesting. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, man. You guys do your own games as well, and maybe you can comment down below what you think is better, the historical or the per ruler basis. But yeah, those are just some of the cool things that have happened right there. Another thing I want to talk about real quick right here is obviously the changes to logistics and attrition and the army stacks and all of that, which we can't really show off proper because I guess we're in 1340 and no country really has any big armies or stuff like that. But even though it was scary, at least when we read the dev diaries, I was like, oh, how is pushing into countries gonna be? Are we gonna siege even slower? Are you gonna want to watch your back even more to not get, encircled basically in EU5 and starve and stuff like that? And even though, yes, I do agree with what I myself said when we were reading those dev diaries, that you do need to be a little bit more careful with the food and with the logistics and stuff like that, it's really not as bad as I thought it'd be. And I think it's quite a lot more realistic the way it's working right now. So I am actually pretty satisfied with the changes to logistics and starvation and stuff like that, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm also once again really satisfied with the split in the well, I guess we once again can't show it off because it's still actual levies instead of armies, but the split and the clear distinction between lights and heavies and stuff like that, which I do really, really like. Which, of course, will make it a far more simpler, man, to, specialize in certain things or whatever you want to call it. I guess certain countries, are better at being light and quick. Other countries are better at, being tanks and stuff like that. And, it's not as clear as I wanted it to be. If I'm being honest, the best way to tell is just to hover over these right here. And at a glance, from what I can tell, you know, at least it's the reddish guys are light and the non-reddish guys are heavy, but that's okay. And, you know, it helps with research and stuff like that as well. Let me just cancel these. I think Castile started researching these things by itself. But for example, you go into the Age of Renaissance and you're maybe specializing into lights, right? Oh, what are, you know, crossbowmen and stuff like that? Oh, wait, crossbowmen, oh, they're light infantry, cool. I'll research them, and I won't research men-at-arms. Let's say I'm doing a fictional scenario right here, because this campaign, I've decided to go light infantry and cavalry only. So why waste time researching all of this stuff when you can, you know, just go down that? So that's simple as well. But speaking of research, and while we're here, another super useful thing, man, is this right here. For example, you know, you start up a game, you're like, okay, let's just queue all of this up, right, until we get to, you know, the next stage and stuff. But you're like, oh wait, institutions are about to spawn. I don't want to have to, you know, cancel everything right here so that then institution growth is first. No, what you do is you just queue everything up, but then you've decided you want to make this first. Dude, control click and it goes up to the top. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. You know, you can cancel this too, and there we go. That's it. It's first right there, so it makes sense, man. You know, just control click to prioritize whatever, except for, you know, the thing that's currently being researched, right? So it'll just put it up next, right? And you know, I wonder if you can do it from here too. Yeah, you can do it from here too. Perfect. You can just control click from here and everything goes first, aside from the thing that we're researching. So that's another nice little quality of life change. Okay, the last thing I actually want to touch on about is actually the HRE, which has been changed quite a lot, man. And I think for the better, because for me at least, the HRE has never looked more stable. Now, even currently, actually, I guess we let more years tick by than I thought we would. Austria is the emperor, and Austria, in my experience, does more reliably become emperor now than any other country. Now, of course, we do want that to happen in EU5, because Austria is the emperor for 80%, 85% of the duration of EU5. But, you know, at the start, you would want it to flip-flop a little bit between these guys. But with Austria being the emperor, man, and, you know, this is a cool interface too. You know, you can see the electors. And, you know, as Austria, for example, you can, you know, bribe these guys, but you do need favors and stuff like that. And this whole interface has been changed over here. So, you know, you can invite countries to the HRE. Oh, look, Imola, Cesena, and Rethel would come in? Sure, why not? You know, you can... well, obviously you can't leave, you know why, what you need to do to leave, but, you know, you can grant county privileges, you know, you can revoke free city status, you can demand unlawful territory. All of these interactions that you would want to do as the emperor are just so much better. They're right here, man. You just click into the HRE, it's all right there. Way better. Obviously, we got the Imperial Treasury, which we can't show off right now. The Imperial Diet right here, the members of the HRE, you know, you can sort them by opinion, by great power status, by how much their vote matters, you know, their culture. Yeah, I don't know why we can't see this way, but it's there we go. So you can sort it like that as well. That's pretty cool right there. You know, you can see the peasant republics, you can see the princes, you can see the prelates, the legus natus, the prima, I'm not even gonna try and say that, you know, the free cities, check them, uncheck them. So the HRE interface, not only the HRE, I want to say, but the HRE interface as well is looking a lot better. And obviously, man, you have these things right here, which are the stuff that can be enacted or are enacted, and you can start various debates right here. You know, I wish I should have done some saves so we can jump into a later campaign. So we can see these in action. But yeah, it's already a lot better, man. And aside from all of these things that I just mentioned that sure are nice, one thing I want to go back to is that the HRE, overall, to me at least, it seems a lot more stable. Like I said, you know, you got France hitting here a little bit and over here a little bit, but you really, and I know we don't even have this since 1.1, but now it's even more stable, man, especially with a powerful Austria, which I actually have seen become the Archduchy or whatever, and Hungary doesn't push that much into these guys. I don't think I've actually seen them do that ever. In fact, I've seen Austria and Salzburg and Scilly and them push into Hungary, not even coalition stuff. Poland doesn't push in, so along with these changes to the HRE, man, you know, that are just a looky look, I think the HRE as a whole is a lot more stable. The only thing I still have complaints about right now, at least regarding the HRE, is that these guys do still end up staying more than leaving, just because once again, man, it's what you call it, once again, it's powerful emperors. It's powerful emperors, and they bring quite a lot over to the progress of the Ghibellines. As you can see, 0.14 as opposed to 0.12. Now, you might not think it's that much, but, you know, overall, as time goes on, the gap increases. But HRE, to me, is looking a lot more solid. And I know we've only been in Europe most of the time. Just to touch on other things over here, China is still the same. It's still super fun. Yuan blows up. We do get a big guy almost every game, but one or two times I did see like 3 small guys split China equally, which was nice. And by the way, if you're wondering about this, it's the trade capacity and the profit that we're making. But now, you know, it's our own profit right here, you know, which we don't gotta hover over, which is nice. But yeah, elsewhere in the world, man, things seem pretty standard. And like I said, I was focusing pretty much on Europe. We also got a little bit of localization. Genoa is Zena, you know, and stuff like that. Venice is Venexia or whatever. So a lot more localization, which is nice. And yeah, HRE is actually looking pretty nice, man. You know I'm sort of bouncing around all over the place right here, and I'm not going in depth on anything. Like I said, we went in depth on everything when we were reading the dev diaries. And like I said at the start, we're just going off of vibes and how everything feels, at least to me and in the games I've done, just to help get you guys a better grasp. But now, once we've wrapped up now that we've wrapped up the free stuff, which everything we've talked about so far has been a part of the free patch, let's move on a little bit onto Byzantium, because a lot of the stuff they have is a part of their DLC. So yeah, man, as you guys know, lots of changes have come to Byzantium. You know, we also got something I didn't mention was the let me try and find it right here, dude. Everything got unpinned. Let me just find this right here while we're at Byzantium. Right, location rank. Now we got megalopolises, which is the 4th tier of location. You know, we got rural, town, city, and megalopolises. Constantinople, Cairo, and I think something in China, and Beijing are megalopolises at the start of the game. It's basically the 4th tier. I mean, you can see everything right here. But back to Biz, man. The changes that I have gotten is they're great. And I gotta say, not for the first time, because countries do feel unique, but for the most time, you actually feel like you're getting, you know, something, a unique experience. Obviously, first of all, man, and we're gonna go into way more depth on Biz in an actual video about Biz, but you know, you got the disaster, you got the rise of the Turks, economy. Look, the AI managed to get a hold on the economy. AI Biz, after 3 years, is actually making money. Sure, it has a -30 stability, but hey, you get the point. And you may notice a lot more things to spend money on right here. Interesting. What is that? Well, we'll touch on that soon. But yeah, you know, they got all of their, you know, unique government reforms right here. Some are old and, you know, and stuff like that. But here's another country tab that we want to talk about the most when it comes to Byzantium: bureaucracies. Now, with mods, any country can have bureaucracies, and in the future, I think they will be brought to most countries, if I'm being honest. But right now, it's a unique thing for Byzantium, and we talked a lot about these in the dev diary, man. But for example, you got these sort of, you know, let's call them entrenched remnants from a better age and stuff like that. And you know, it's literally the bureaucracy, you know, simplified, and you know, it's guys expecting to get things and not really giving anything in return, or making stuff annoying for you. If you take a look at the estate power right here, man, and you know, if we analyze these one by one, man, and for example, you know, 3 years have passed, we can actually see that Byzantium isn't spending any money on this, and why would they, right? They're literally broke. But these guys, they got something that's called entrenchment, and that's basically how, well, I mean, do you guys need me to explain the world how embedded into a government a bureaucracy is? And for example, for Biz right now, all of these are at 80%, and this is what they give us, and it's bad. Look at it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I like some of them, but mostly we just don't like it. Mostly we just don't like it. So, you know, we got the negative effects, we got the like neutral effects and the positive effects and stuff like that. We got the Senate right here. It lowers legitimacy, it's tanking it, you know, and it's modified by the entrenchment, so it's even more, you know, and this is, I guess, whatever. Cabinet efficiency is nice, but negative 18%. What you call it, a crown satisfaction or whatever you want to call it. Pops join rebels threshold. Sure, they give us a little bit of tax. So, you know, there are ways to, like, you know, to spend on these guys, and they will give you more stuff the more satisfied they are. They will give you more negative stuff the less satisfied they are. And certain, you know, what you call it, these, you know, estate privileges matter to them, and gov reforms matter to them and stuff like that. It's definitely a very interesting system to play around with. You know, whether you do want to spend money on these, but, you know, get out of debt, because Biz does have mega debt at the start. So it's tricky. It's pretty fun, if I'm being honest, obviously, because we've already played Biz. You know, it's gonna be fun no matter what, just because it's something new, right? But it's definitely cool to play around with. Now, obviously, once you become rich as Biz, for example, you know, let's disregard the money for a little bit. Let's say we want to spend max on all of these guys, right? And for example, if we do max all of these guys out, we can see that because of their entrenchment and because of the stuff that we're spending, we're gonna get. And let me actually let a month take over right here, but you know, you can see that we're losing mega money, for example. But if we go back into these guys right here, you know, the positive effects, they're kind of banging, you know. They're kind of banging. Minus 90% of state power from the books of the Basilica. Right now, we're not getting a negative effect from anything because we're max spending. And, you know, these, like I said, in the middle, they're like the effects that we have all the time, right? No matter if we spend money or not. But you can see it. It changes real time. Imperial Senate. Lower their stuff. Oh, look. Not getting any of that. Getting a lot of that. Oh, what's this? Fort defense? Nice. Gonna help us out versus the Ottomans? No, it's just gonna make the nobles super powerful, right? So, you know, in the beginning, it's tricky to balance these guys, and you are gonna be suffering these heavy effects, you know, and stuff like that, especially if you want to fix the economy right away. It's nice that you can balance these guys from here as well, but it's definitely a cool thing to play around. Biz has lots of unique events, man, and unique events and stuff like that. You know, for example, for us, this one, when the book is open, it's happened. So, for example, Biz has had this event. In fact, we literally just had it pop up. This one, this has happened as well. This one has happened. There are actually so many events. If you take a look at Biz right here, I don't even know how many they have. All of this is just in the first age, ladies and gentlemen. All of this is just in the first age, and not only the first age too, but, you know, as you can see, up until, you know, this one, even until 1499. So it's you know, it's nice to take a look at them. For example, you know, Zealots of Thessaloniki, it can happen again or not again. Is this okay? Well, let me look for a different one. New Sparta, for example, 40% of locations in Morea. We need to own you know, all of those, and then, you know, well, I guess we'll see what we get. So it's nice, man. You know, just going off of it, you know, on a surface level here with Biz, you know, also nice what you call it, good regulars, man. They got some insane minting laws. I'm not sure if I can find it right now. I probably can't, but you know, it doesn't even matter. Biz does feel good. Is it harder? I can't honestly say if it's harder or not. You know, it's a same level of difficulty, I would say. And honestly, I do literally play EU5 for a living, so maybe, you know, I would find it easier than the average player would, or maybe not. But it's just a different level of the same hard. More fun, to be honest, more fun. And I do honestly think that, you know, the previous strats, which, you know, in my opinion, we had two different schools of thought for Byzantium, right? You know, at least that's how I always thought it. You could either be the chill Biz, so you do nothing, you don't fight anyone, please, let's just get out of this debt, you know, don't, you know, mint max, just try and get out of debt, try and raise stability, try and raise legitimacy, try and get out of disasters, avoid them and stuff like that. Then once you stabilize up, maybe an opportunistic war here and there, nab someone small, maybe when the Karasids break free from the Girmionids or whatever. And then you have the other side, which was go all out, insta, frick money, frick stability, frick legitimacy, gotta fight the Ottomans and the Karasids right away, just so we can take all of this right here. Obviously, you know, a lot of it is I've lost my map modes, man. A lot of it is our cores, you know. So we'll be getting cores easily on all of that stuff. What map mode do I use to see the cores, man? Right, integration. I don't know why integration got unpinned, but you know, the other school of thought, which was, and they got do they got more cores now? I never noticed this. But you know, just go in on everything, get your cores back. That's how you grow. And I feel like even with all of these changes to Byzantium and the new disasters and the bureaucracy and stuff like that, and you know, the same level of difficulty but in a different way, I still think actually both ways of playing Byzantium are still viable. You still can jump in as Biz and try not to do anything and anger everyone and just try to fix yourself. And then once you fix yourself, then you get into the whole thing. Or you can still do the aggro strat, I feel like, where you do opportunistic wars to get your cores back, and that's how you grow. Obviously, the fighting one is faster, and you recover more quickly and stuff like that, but for a newer player, the chilling one might be easier. Maybe some opportunistic wars here and there, but yeah, Biz definitely a lot more fun, man. Obviously, on all of the advances that they gotten, for me at least, you know, the bureaucracies is a super fun part of it and stuff like that. So yeah, Biz, man, I really do like a lot, and I do think this DLC is worth it, if I'm being honest. And obviously, I did get hung up a bit on Byzantium for unique content, obviously because they're the focus of this DLC, and even though we didn't go too much into depth, like I said, we'll do an actual Biz video. This is not even gameplay after all. Other countries did receive unique stuff, man. You know, I think Serbia and Bulgaria and Albania and a couple of these guys got some unique events and stuff like that, and obviously for Albania and Serbia and Biz, the map has been changed as well, but I think those well, not I think, those things are for sure a part of the free update, which, you know, everyone will have. But yeah, as for Biz, man, you know, it is, like I said, only an immersion pack. It's focused on one country. Then we'll have, you know, the Chronicle packs, which will focus on like 2 or 3 countries. And then we'll have the actual proper expansions, which will focus on like entire regions and stuff like that. We don't know yet what those will be. Obviously, we have Across the Pillars for these guys and Old Alliance for these guys right here coming up. One of them this year, other one in next year, and after that more stuff. But yeah, we'll do a proper dive into Byzantium, but they aren't the only ones that got unique content. And you know, going back to bureaucracies, man, I'm excited to see how this seemingly simple but actually very in-depth system can be expanded for other countries. And obviously, you know, they can be made a generic and everyone can have them, but I'm more excited to see, you know, what kind of unique bureaucracies Austria or Naples or Castile or France would get and stuff like that. It really is just a completely another thing that you need to think about. And does it complicate the game a little bit more? Sure, but come on, man, it's Byzantium, right? So yeah, I think for an immersion pack and for the price that it is, I do think it's worth it, honestly. You know, of course, I'm biased here. By the way, this is not a sponsored video or anything, because I do make content about the game. But if I was playing the game, I'd pick it up. Honestly, I'd pick it up. It's Biz, man, you know, so that's why. But, you know, obviously, to each their own. So, yeah, that's just been some of the main things that I wanted to talk about this, man. Once again, like I said many times, it's just a vibes-based video, how everything feels when you play the game. We didn't go into nerd stats or how, you know, trade efficiency doesn't really work that way anymore, because we talked about those, and you know, I don't really do as nerdy videos and stuff like that. So just going off of vibes right here, man. And yeah, you know, I would say it's a step in the right direction, but they've been stepping in the right direction ever since it came out, right? So at least, you know, that's how I feel like it. So to me, it's not a step in the right direction. It's literally continuing to go along the right direction, which they already have been going on. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of 1.2, man. Very excited to be playing this patch. It gives me even more trust for future patches, because honestly, nothing has been fucked up so far aside from 0.1.10, which they left us with for about a month, you know, around New Year there. But 1.1 has been awesome. 1.1, sorry, has been awesome. 1.2 is even better. I think first actual, you know, paid DLC, even though it's not really a DLC, it's just a tiny thing. I think they knocked it out of the park, and excited even more to actually, you know, give you guys proper gameplay and to experience new updates and stuff like that. So yeah, I gotta say, man, you know, the question that we asked at the start of the video, is it any good? Yes, it's very good. I like it quite a lot. The free patch and the DLC, I'm gonna be enjoying them. I hope you guys as well. And yeah, if you're watching this video a couple of days later, man, or, you know, if you're, you know, updating right now or getting the DLC or whatever, you know, come back to this video after you played a couple of games. Let me know what you think about it. Leave a comment. What do you like? What don't you like? Obviously, there's been more than 2,000 bugs fixed as well. I haven't encountered any bugs personally that, you know, break the game. But then again, I never really did either ever since the start. So maybe it's just me. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say, you know, quickly about 1.2 and Fate of the Phoenix. I've been talking about them in, you know, the last 10 news videos or whatever. So I've said most of what I had to say, you know, just off of reading and stuff like that. But I think it's really good, man. And I like it. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. Once again, if you want to get the Fate of the Phoenix for yourself or upgrade to the premium edition, which will also give you the 2 pillars or whatever, or across the pillars and Old Alliance, you can do so by checking out the link in the description and in the pinned comment. It helps support the channel. I get a little cut of that. So yeah, like I said, leave a comment, man. Subscribe for more videos like this. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. It really helps out a lot. And that's it for me for now. See you next time.